Well, here we are. It's the progress report for this Wednesday, July 11th. And glad to be back with you here in Manchester, Hooksett, and Auburn. As is always the case, unless it's the first Wednesday of the month, I'm with my good friend Mike Farley.
It's good to be back.
Provocateur.
We were off for a week with the 4th of July.
We were off with the 4th of July, celebrating the nation's birthday.
Might be a little rusty today.
Hope everybody had a grand and glorious 4th of July. And we are really pleased to welcome back for the first time in quite a while the former downtown alderman for Manchester, Pat Long, still the state rep, and the chair of our state house delegation of Manchester, New Hampshire representatives. Pat, thanks for coming in.
It's great to be back. Looking forward to the discussion.
And we are looking forward to have you participate in it. As always, we'll welcome participation, 640-3091, if you want to call in and participate. Going to be kind of a wide-ranging, free-flowing, I hope, discussion tonight. We're going to talk about, I think, probably some city issues, but certainly some state issues and some national issues. Lots been happening as we are here. Tom Steyer is up in Concord, or just started up there. He's the guy who may have seen TV ads. Multi-millionaires decided to spend a few of those millions promoting the impeachment of President Trump. And is that a good idea? Is he just crazy to do that or not? But in any event, that would be a good time to lead into our newest feature on the program, Mike Farley's very own POTUS report on the progress report.
It's 7 months old. We've been doing it since January, but we will keep it up. And I got to tell you, sometimes it's hard to weed through what's going on and pick something good. I had a good topic for today, and I was watching Morning Joe, and Mike Barnacle basically gave my POTUS report on the Morning Joe, but I'm going to do it anyway. It basically was an observation. You know, we had some real uplifting news on the international scene, and I'm not talking about the NATO summit. And I've been a little bit discouraged. I was talking to you about that, Bob, with the Supreme Court situation and this nominee. But it was nice to have the uplifting news from Thailand. What could have been a real tragic situation with impending weather, the situation deteriorating all the time. We had a national and an international effort to reunite children with their families under really complicated circumstances that were beyond anyone's cause. No one caused this. It was an accidental situation, and yet the world came together and successfully rescued all of those young boys, 12 young boys, and their young 25-year-old soccer coach got out alive. Sadly, one of the rescuers did die in the effort, but for the most part, the rest of them did get out under pretty harrowing circumstances at the end there. And while I was watching that and feeling so uplifted about it, my mind turned back to something that's been on my mind for a couple of months now, and that's these children that have been ripped from their mother's arms and their father's arms, taken thousands of miles away under cover of night, and put into these warehouses and cages. And there was a glimmer of hope. We had a court that mandated that the youngest of these children, the ones under 5 years old and under, would be reunited with their families earlier this week. And of course, the Trump administration fell flat on its face on that. There were 102 children identified that were supposed to be reunited with their parents earlier this week. The Trump administration promised that they would bring 54 kids back to their parents, and they succeeded in reuniting a grand total of 4. They did, by the end of the day of the deadline, get another 34. So a total of 38 right under as the garage door was closing, right under the wire. And they promised that the remaining 16 will be reunited soon, whenever that is. Now, there's thousands more kids that have been taken from their parents, and if they can't get 102 reunited by the deadline, I think that the chances that these other thousands of kids are going to be reunited is slim to none. And how do we look to the rest of the world as people in Germany, that horrible place, or France, or Great Britain, or Canada, or Mexico, watch their national news and see international stories, and they see the world rallying to save and reunite families, and then they see the United States just ripping kids from their parents' arms. I don't understand it, and I don't understand how any Republican in the state of New Hampshire, in the United States of America, can support this. If you're a decent person, how can you stand behind it? How can you turn a blind eye? How can you not get up and say something? So that's my POTUS report for the progress report today.
Okay, very good. It was interesting to hear Trump as he was about to depart to bash our allies in Europe at the NATO meeting, taking a ceremonial breakfast to attack Germany, which has been a staunch ally of ours ever since the
Clearly confusing
formation.
trade with security.
Clearly confusing trade with security. When he was asked about reuniting these children, he said, well, they should not, my answer is people should come to this country legally, not illegally.
And he doesn't know what he's talking about,
doesn't
because
know what he's
many of
talking
these
about.
parents did come to this country legally, were entered at a port of entry seeking asylum. That's legal. You can seek asylum in this country. That's legal.
Yeah. Well, it's even worse than that, because in fact there is no legal path for most of these people. The path for legal immigration in the United States is very narrow, and it's certainly not targeted to people of low income and low education fleeing the possibility of death by gang violence in Central America. It's not. There's no legal path for those people whatsoever. That's just a grand myth that there's this, welcoming Statue of Liberty that, bring me your huddled masses, you're poor, yearning to be free. No,
Well, I would beg to
there's
differ.
no legal path.
There are laws governing refugees. There are laws governing
There
people
are laws
seeking
governing refugees,
asylum.
but he's making that an impossible thing too.
Well, he's narrowing the reasons for which a person can claim asylum.
Well, I don't think he understands the difference between refugees and immigrants. I don't think he gets it. I think he lumps them all together and calls them all terrorists and rapists and whatever. Anyway, Eddie is on the phone. We'll talk to Eddie and then we'll get
the
talking
newly
about
minted Republican. Eddie, how are you doing?
Hello?
Hi, Eddie.
Glad to have you in the progress report, Eddie.
Hey, welcome back there, Pat.
Hey, thanks, Ed. Good to hear from you.
Hey, I wanted to ask you a couple of real basic questions here about some local things. I'm not real interested in hearing these guys here bash Trump, but I wanted to ask you a couple questions.
No, you would.
Sure.
You
Go
just
right ahead.
joined the party, huh, Eddie?
Go right ahead.
You're a member of Trump's party now, Eddie.
I guess one of the more obvious questions is Alderman Baines, who you lost a close vote to. He voted to override the tax cap. I mean, if that were you, would you have gone along with that, or what? Can you give us your 2 cents on that, please?
Well, if I was still in there, it wouldn't have been that budget. I would have had a budget. It wouldn't have been the same budget. I would have overrode the tax cap for surplus. For
The revenue side.
the revenue side for added property value. I don't know if I'd have gone up to 85 million. But yeah, it would have been different. It would have been my budget. It would have been different. But that's 2020. I would have voted to override. Yeah.
Okay, I want to ask you one more thing, Pat. This most recent police contract, it's been called by some watershed contract, right? It was generous in the extreme. I guess I'll ask you as a private citizen / state legislator, does Manchester need to get away from that kind of thing now? Like the firefighters, they're going to want theirs, right? They're going to want a mirror image of what the police got. Do we need to get away from these exceedingly generous, over-the-top contracts for some of our city employees?
Yeah, I do agree with. Personally, I believe they undercut themselves. We look at it as an extreme contract. I think they undercut themselves. Police department has a hard job. They do a lot of hard work. It's day in and day out of the mess that they're looking to clean up, and they do a great job. But there are ways of looking at these contracts. Well, first of all, if I had won again, what I wanted to do, I had asked Jane Guile with Human Resources, I wanted to print out a list of employee salaries, what units they're in, Public Works, Police, Fire, AFSCME, and then print out their salaries and see where the salaries are of the people that are living in Manchester. So I can't say this for sure because I've never gotten that, but I'm thinking the higher your salary goes, you're moving out of Manchester.
Of course, they go to Bedford, they go to Amherst.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So my concentration with these contracts would have been on those that are living in Manchester. without saying that, because we're not allowed to do that, you know, we have to be fair across the board. But I would have looked at those. If we get a lot of public works people living in Manchester making $14 an hour or $13 an hour, my concentration would have been passing that contract. Waterworks
Okay, yeah, that
people,
makes sense.
you know what I mean? You know, let's start there. I mean, as you know, I did vote against the police contract because it wasn't a
credit.
negotiation. You know, personally, I believe that a negotiation is an opportunity for both sides to benefit, not benefit 100%. So there wasn't, with the police contract, there was no benefit to the city. It was, here's what we want, and here's what you give us. Now, do they deserve it? Yeah, absolutely, they deserve it. Actually, I think they deserve more. But on the fire side, it was the same way.
Realistic, though, you know.
Yeah, well, on the fire side, the same way. They came with the same contract, and I voted against it. You know, and personally, it wasn't the money. It was the fact that we didn't negotiate. So if I was an alderman, if I was the alderman during these negotiations, I would have left the money as is, and I'd be negotiating for what benefit are they going to give the city. So, and I don't know where it's at now. I can only guess, but yeah, you're absolutely right. We you know, there's a lot of different ways we need to look at a lot of different aspects of our contracting negotiations.
All right, Pat, thanks, and take care.
All right, Ed, you too.
Two good questions, Eddie, and two good answers, Pat. And I guess I guess we're going to swing right into local issues.
Well, yes, you mentioned, Pat, that if you'd still been an alderman, it would have been this budget, it would have been a different budget. And I know when you were an alderman, you worked very hard to present budgets that had your own imprimatur on them.
Right. Yeah.
How would your budget be different than this budget? I guess
Well,
you
one
talked
of the
about
one
that
of the,
some
one of the
ways.
major, you know, one of the major issues with me is when the city of Manchester is experiencing a upturn in the economy. I think it's imperative for this city to change its face, some way, somehow, change its face. Whether it's the Riverwalk, whether it's something downtown, you know,
Better signage.
Something that when you know, when this economy, you know, when this term is over, you say, wow, this is different than it was 2 years ago.
An improvement.
An improvement.
And there's a lot of plans in the works that are just
absolutely.
you know, waiting
Sure.
for the funds to be available
Sure.
to
Yeah, I
to
just
promote
joined
them.
the steering committee of Manchester Connects. They got a lot of great ideas. Actually, Chris Wellington is and I are on the looking for funds. Him and I are on the steering committee to look for funds. These grants, and I mean, there's a lot of, you know, I didn't realize Southwest Airlines, any municipality that they fly into, offered $200,000 of a grant to the municipality. So I'm like, great. I'd never heard of that. How come we're not going after that, right?
We haven't had that? We haven't gotten that grant?
No.
Sounds like
So-
somebody should have.
Yeah, no. So, yeah, and you know, we have the Tiger Grant, which is now called the build grant, which is money that we wanted $10 million, and it would have cost us $2 million. So people shied away from giving up the $2 million, and what do we end up doing? We end up spending $1.5 million on Elm Street, which this $10 million would have went to Elm Street.
Yep. For
for
500,000 more. You know.
We needed 500,000 more,
Yeah.
which we had. You know, so yeah, there's money out there to put these programs through. You know, there's 4 models that Manchester Connects is looking to enhance, and I think that's great. I think again that whenever our economy grows, the next term we ought to see a difference within the city. So,
Yeah.
you know, the face of the city clearly changes.
Because
Yeah.
we certainly have to retrench when the economy hits a downturn. You can't
Right.
do those things. You can't make
Oh, this is the
progress.
time, you know,
So-
times are good.
That's right. That's right. And you don't have to overstretch yourself. Things are normally going. For example, when I heard the assessor say, you know, $55 to $75 million, I was like, wow. You know, I was getting up to $35 and $40 million. So that's, for every million, it's $20,050 goes into your tax base for every $1 million. So 85 times 20,050, that's close to $2 million. So I see why you grab that. You hope the DRA sends it back correctly. I mean, One of my budgets, we were $2 million short on our estimation, but we had $2 million of surplus that washed that, so the budget came out good. I give Danny O'Neill credit. It's a hard job passing. I passed the last two budgets. I drafted the last two budgets, and it's a tough job. I mean, Mayor Craig knows that. I worked with her on budgets.
Yes, you did.
In the past. So
Yeah.
it's a very difficult process to line up your ducks.
Well, I didn't know you were on the board of Manchester Connects. I do think they've got a lot of exciting
Yeah,
ideas.
I'm on a steering committee.
Yeah. I got a great suggestion, I think.
What's that?
I'm a big fan of the trail system in Manchester, developing our old rail lines.
Yep.
And
As
I
am
just recently went and walked on the Londonderry Rail Trail. They've now, and that's a beautiful trail with historic signage and everything. It's really neat. And they've now got it up to Mammoth Road, and next year they're going to take it up to the Manchester Airport.
Yes.
And we should be moving Manchester's South Willow Street Rail Trail down to link up with that.
Yeah, and actually
That would be a great
that
use
you-
of
now
those
that you brought
Southwest
that up.
Airlines funding, if it's, because
Well, I
it's
sit
the
on the-
airport.
well,
It's the
there's money,
airport. You
there's-
can walk to get on your damn plane if you want.
CMAQ money and rail to trail money at the state, where we've got to get a plan together to present, and I don't know what the deadline is for that, but there is available funding, and I sit on a planning board, and we had a company in lieu of putting in sidewalks, which there was no sidewalk on each side of the property. He agreed to give $9,000 towards that effort. So I thought this is great. We're being
that's really
creative.
neat. Yeah.
We got $9,000 to put towards this our side of the match.
Yeah.
Creative stuff like that always moves us forward.
And it's something I
it gives
think
us a better face.
People really like. It's a real attraction for a city to have be bike friendly and walker friendly. And this
There
will
is
help
some
with that.
progress being made on that South Willow Trail. They've done some clearing there, but there's definitely more work that could be
Right.
done.
Yeah.
Making that connection
Now,
down at
how's been
Sundial
the?
Ave.
I know some of the trails have been having issues with people, getting hit up for money or whatever. The bad element out there. I'm not sure how the South Willow Street area has been doing, because I know a lot of people that do use it to head towards Salem or
Yeah.
Londonderry.
Yep,
or
it goes
whatever.
down
Yeah.
that way.
It
Down-
eventually will,
down through Litchfield.
go up the entire length of the state. It's part of the
Right.
Heritage Trail.
Okay.
And the Londonderry Trail now goes from the Derry line almost to the airport. And then next year their plan is to extend it to the airport.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
Would be
that'd
a nice connection to make.
That'd be
Nice.
a really nice connection.
Yeah, I'm sure the mayor has all those efforts.
Oh, yeah.
In the back of her head.
Oh, she'd be
there's a lot
enthusiastic
of-
about this for sure.
For sure. So there,
She's a marathon runner.
that's
after all.
that's where you work with your state delegation, right? To
Right.
recoup those funds.
Okay, well, we're being told by Brian it's time to take our first break, so we'll do that and we'll be back. And thanks for the call, Eddie. Anybody else who wants to participate, 640-3091. We'd love to. That provoked some very good discussion, I thought, so we'd love to hear from you if you want to try your hand at the same sort of thing. We'll be right back. So, everybody, this is the progress report for Wednesday, July 11th of the beautiful summer of 2018. And today was an exceptionally fine day to be out and about. I hope you all got out to enjoy it. The temperature was nice. The humidity was down. Kind of thing I like. And lots of good things are happening in town. And we have no better person to talk about what's happening in Manchester and the good things that are happening, and also deal with some of the real problems we got in Manchester than Pat Long. Served many terms as the alderman for downtown, Ward 3, and still is a elected state rep and the chairman of our Manchester delegation to this New Hampshire House of Representatives. And you were going to bring up an issue that's not so much fun to talk about as the burgeoning rail trail system, but is a serious problem for our community, the opioid crisis.
Right.
And tell us what you
Yeah, well,
share on
there was
that.
Senators Shaheen and Hassan worked hard to get funding through the feds. I believe the acronym is CARA. I don't know what it stands for, CARA. And what they were hoping was that the states with the most problems, because we have that data, it's a national data.
Well,
The fact that
our president called us a drug-infested den.
So
Thank you, just
so
President Trump.
what happened when this money was appropriated? They did it per capita. So the state of New Hampshire got $3 million. Didn't make sense. We are number one, number two, whatever number you want to put us at.
Yeah.
We should have more than
Our
$3
per
million.
capita need is much higher than the per capita need of some other states
Exactly.
that they leveled.
Exactly. So they were successful. Our delegation was successful in getting $23 million to the state of New Hampshire for the opiate.
A real
issue.
great achievement for our congressional delegation.
Absolutely.
And every penny of that is going to
heavily
be put to
needed.
good use, yeah.
Oh, for sure. But the thing is, I was speaking to Michelle Merritt, is the CEO of New Futures. Michelle knows in and out the qualifications for this funding. Now, your report's going to be in on the 13th, and I know making it happen, this Ginny O'Higgins is working on coming up with some programs. My first fear that it would all go to treatment. Now, do we need money in treatment? Absolutely.
That's
but
not going to solve your problem. That's the
right.
end piece
That's
of the
right.
puzzle.
For 2 years, I've been arguing about, you need to close the whole circle. So we're going to wonder why a 6-year-old who was found in the back seat of a parent passed out in the car of an overdose and gets picked up and brought, into foster care or whatever, we're going to wonder why this 6-year-old 10 years from now at 16 is using heroin, right?
Because we're not attacking the front end of the problem.
That's right.
We're taking 100% of the resources that we have, as paltry as they are,
That's
and we're
right.
throwing it all at the end of the problem, which
exactly.
is the piece
Which
that
you
is
need
right in
that.
our face in the
Yeah,
street
but
every day.
like I said a year ago, congratulations, Manchester. Anybody who needs help can get help. Congratulations. That was a long time coming, and it's here. If you want help, you can get help in the city of Manchester. Now we need to start moving beyond that. Where's the recovery? What's the follow-up? What are we doing with our children? What are we doing with there's a thing called ACEs. It's adverse childhood experiences. And the data has it, the data says that they're 50% more likely to be high risk. Any child that gets any trauma. And watching your parent get Narcaned, watching your parent be taken away from you. And I was reading a report where it has New Hampshire. It didn't have a breakdown to the detail that I wanted, but New Hampshire is one of the top states where grandparents and loved ones are taking their grandchildren and their siblings' children because of the heroin epidemic. What are we doing for them? I mean, I speak to
The
I speak
answer to that is
grandparents.
nothing.
No, that's right.
Nothing.
So that's
I can tell you from hearing firsthand stories, this is a devastating problem to families, especially to people on fixed incomes. They're not working anymore. And the expenses that go along with trying to raise a kid after you're prepared to do it are enormous.
my wife and
there's
I-
no program for that. You can't
my
call
wife and
anybody.
I take our granddaughter for a day, and wow. I mean, we are.
And
we
at
are
night
burnt
you're
out.
tired.
We are burnt out. So I'm thinking there's a couple that lives next to us that have their grandchild. And I mean, it's a 2-year-old, right? And it's like, how do you do this? It's hard.
You have to.
do. They get frustrated. They don't have the means to be doing this. They set themselves up for retirement. Now, now it's all time and finances and, making sure the child is.
And in a couple of years, that
all
child's
right.
going to be going to school, and there's going to be
That's
the
right.
drop-off and the pickup and everything
That's
else
right.
that goes along
So,
with that.
so talking with people that have had this, that have done this, grandparents that have done this, One of their major concerns, what they would like, is respite. So talking to Michelle Merritt, I was thinking, and I spoke to Rick Cornell with Greater Manchester Mental Health. You know, why couldn't we have a 1 day or 2 day a week respite daycare for these children, so that we could get them in a daycare, given those what do you call people that take care of the kids?
Foster parents.
Foster parents?
Yeah, well, they're not foster parents, but they're they're guardians or whatever they call
CASA
them.
people?
No, the guardian. When you take in your when you take in your grandchild, you're the guardian now, I guess,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
So, anyways, giving them a respite, 1 or 2 days a week, they would love that. And at the same time, having mental health go in there working with these kids. And here's the money, the $23 or $22 million that we're getting from the state.
Yeah.
Because my understanding, it has to be used. It can't be used for current programs. It has to be expanded or something new.
Something innovative.
So I thought, right from the get-go, setting up a daycare, talking with whomever, setting up a daycare, or hiring some daycare workers to work at whatever spot we could pick, 1 or 2 days a week, to have these children brought to the daycare, and they could be broken up by ages or what have you, and have programs, through mental health.
Do you have an idea in mind how many kids you'd be required to service in a program like this? Because my impression is that $23 million would be gone by May. I think that
I could
there's
set
a
up a
lot.
program that would cost $23 million. Yeah, no doubt about this. But I'm saying, I'm looking at a 500, 1,000 number. I'm thinking there's 5,000 in the city of Manchester.
Really? That many?
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
I'd be surprised if there was only 5,000, to be honest with you.
I think the number's up there. I think the
Wow.
number's up there. I mean, because they're all not in the data. Like some people that I know, they're not in the system.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they
These
just
are private arrangements.
They
These-
volunteered that, hey, my son or my daughter's got an issue. I don't want the child in foster care. I'll take the child.
Yeah.
So they're not. There's no data on them.
Yeah.
But one of their biggest thing is, can you give me a break? Can
Yeah.
I get a 1 day a week or a 2 day a week? And at the same time, because what we do is we heal. We have what's it called? I'm drawing a blank on prevention. We have prevention, but prevention is not the healing process. Prevention is prevention.
I would argue. I think our prevention programs over the course of the past 25 to 35 years have been pathetic. They have been ineffective, and I don't think we have prevention.
Yeah.
We have been
Well-
throwing money at these things, and they have not worked.
Well, I think somebody like Matt Cushane at West High, he has 15 students that he works with. In my mind, high-risk kids. In my mind, that's prevention. Anything that is going to address
We've
the
never
high-risk
denigrate
child.
something like that. Totally
No,
on
right,
board with that kind
right,
of thing.
right.
But I'm talking about the bigger picture. This just say no. This incarcerate
Oh,
everybody.
yeah, no,
all
no,
of these prevention
no,
programs
no,
that
no,
we've been
no,
looking
yeah.
at for my lifetime.
I mean, you got to do somewhat of that, but that should be the low key.
No.
It needs to be stepped up. I absolutely agree.
I think this is a great idea you've got, Pat. Is there a community we can look to that's tried this? Would this be
No.
a first?
Yeah.
A first
no,
thing, huh?
No, we got, I just saw $23 million.
Yeah.
We have till August 13th to submit an application. What is it that we're not doing that we need to do?
Well, that sounds
I
like
know-
a perfect fit.
Yeah, I know we
Perfect
need to
fit.
address kids, we need to address kids that need a healing process starting today.
Yeah.
Not when they're 16 or 15 and going to court and we're going to send them to therapy. No, we need to start today because there's a lot of kids that are seeing this. I mean, even if your child is seeing people kibbying out on the sidewalk, or that hits the psyche something.
Oh, yeah, big
or
time.
somebody getting Narcan,
Yeah.
or so. There's opportunity.
It's a great idea. I think it's just a wonderful idea. I don't know if you saw it, but Amy Covino on WMUR did a really powerful with the very limited time that they give people for this sort of thing, about the kids up at the Spalding Youth Center.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw that, but the need you're talking about was well illustrated in her stories up there.
Right.
That they're struggling to provide the resources to handle these kids who don't apparently have the grandparents to help them at all.
What frustrates me is the report I saw coming out of DHHS. And what's the headline of it? DCYF needs substance use, needs therapy. The children need therapy. They need substance use issues. No kidding. No kidding. We've known that, and we know that. And the good thing is that we're not making this stuff up. There's best practices already out there.
Yeah.
There's best practices already out there that we could copy.
And we've got an underutilized facility up there to the extent that that might be a part of it.
Yeah, I had a meeting there last week, actually, and it's, I'm pulling my hair out. There are judges that are having a hard time placing children because there's a limit at the Sununu Center. Right? How do you do that? If a judge feels, I think this person would benefit, this child would benefit from programs at the Sununu Center.
Yeah.
I can't send them because we're already maxed out.
Yeah.
In the guise of that reduction at the Sununu Center was because it's better, best practices show it's better to put them in diversion programs in their community. Absolutely agree. So what are we doing in Manchester? And it's going to cost money, right? Nobody said, okay, Manchester, Nashua, Keene, here's X amount of dollars to get some diversion programs set up so you can take these children in, stuff that'll work.
Yeah.
Webster House is maxed out. All the children homes are maxed out. So what do we do? Where do the judges send them?
So what's the next thing you do to make this vision come into a little closer to reality?
I gotta get a daycare. I gotta talk to Jenny O'Higgins, because what's gonna happen is treatment facilities, other nonprofits are gonna be running to the table to grab this money.
Oh, sure.
And thank you for what you do. I get it, but we need a little bite of the next step, just like recovery housing. Sober living.
I think you've identified a really acute need there. I don't think
it's a very difficult thing. I don't think it's a. I think
all the processes are in place. There's licensing processes. You have people with the expertise in daycare. When you add to it the Manchester mental health component, because you're going to be dealing with stressed children, not a more vanilla type situation.
You're getting sign off from all these caregivers. Because they are responsible for the child. You're getting sign off. You don't want the mental health involved. Okay, but everybody I talk to, please. I have no idea where to send my child, where to send my grandchild. I don't know. I don't know where to go. Because they want a specific focus on what they saw their parents involved with. What they saw their parents involved with. They want it that specific. I don't want to, I could bring my child to therapy. I only have 10 visits. That's for us. Now we're going to use it for the child.
Yeah.
But so be it. They're cash strapped. I'm retired. I didn't save money to bring up a child. I saved money for my wife and I to live out our golden years, right?
It's an acute problem, and it is very widespread. And as you point out, a lot of it is not pursuant to court order. A lot of it is private arrangements that are being made within the family to keep it private.
Right.
But it's stressful on everyone involved, not to mention the kids.
And it's difficult for these grandparents. They love their child. They love their grandchild. They want eventually for them to be healthy enough to get back together. But sometimes they, not push it consciously, but they want it so bad that it becomes more harmful. I don't know if my son or daughter should visit the child. I don't know if that's going to be good. If they're still using, I don't think it's going to be good, but I don't want my grandchild to lose touch with their mother, So just just that help
And,
alone.
no
is-
training,
is-
no guidance, no one
No.
to turn to for advice.
That's right.
You're on your own, and each one of
That's
these
right.
people is on their own. And
That's right.
And,
right.
but you know what? It sounds like you too. People talk to me about it.
Yeah.
I'm hearing about
Yeah.
it, and who the heck am I that they, but it comes up in conversation so frequently that I really, you know what I mean, tip of the iceberg kind of thing.
Right, right.
I cannot,
Right.
I can't be seeing the full extent of this, personally. I can't be.
Yeah, I mean, I get calls all the time for, I get mental health calls. I get, grandparents calling me on their kids on the opiate issues. I get calls on bed bugs. I still get all those calls within the city, and I try to help them, right?
'Cause you did a lot. You did a lot.
You try to steer them in the right direction, but I don't know where you send your 5-year-old granddaughter to talk about the opiate issues that she's experienced. I don't know where to go. Call Greater Manchester Mental Health. They could probably direct you somewhere. Do you have the insurance? Do you have?
It's a spotty system, Pat. It's a spotty
can you
system.
afford it? And personally, this is critical. I mean, like I had mentioned before, the Indian with the tear coming down. That didn't take a year for us to stop throwing trash out in the streets. That
It was a
took
decade-long
decade
program.
long. And when I was a kid, it was being driven in my head when I was in high school. Because we used to drive to the beach and you could throw your Dunkin' Donuts and your McDonald's stuff right out the window. And it was nothing. Nobody was beeping at you. You just, we're done eating, boom, right? And that was normal, right? I remember riding in the back of a truck to Hampton Beach with we had a tarp in the truck, and we filled it with water. And I was sitting in the Lay's Challenge, riding to the beach in the back of a truck. That was okay, right? But I mean, we started with
We had
the
to get
children.
better. We had to be
We
better.
started with the young folks, so that by the time they're, 15, 16, 12, they're starting to get it. We talk about, don't even try it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, try telling that to a kid that's traumatized.
Yeah, right.
And they're looking to self-medicate,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So,
Well, we got another break coming up on us, and this has been a very interesting discussion. I think it's a great idea you got there, Pat. Love to try and help you with it if I can.
it's great.
I think that's really, really a great. You've pinpointed a real acute need that we haven't met,
And a solution.
and a possible
It's
solution.
a
So
rare,
that's great.
rare juxtaposition sometimes.
And we get the funding.
Well, that's the solution, I guess, and you get that funding to be directed to this very good idea. Okay, folks, we're going to take our final break, and we'll be right back with the final segment of this show with Pat Long, who's full of good ideas and good works for our community, as he always is. So we'll be right back. You want to participate, 640-3091, and we'd love to welcome you when we come back, just in a very brief break. Okay, this is the progress report for Wednesday, July 11th, and if you've been with us, I think you've heard a very interesting discussion of a possible new way
Yeah,
to
didn't expect to talk about that when we came down here
the
today.
opioid crisis and its effect on our children with Pat Long, who's never at a loss for ideas to address the problems in our community, and not only addresses them with his ideas, but helps get them implemented. So I wouldn't rule it out that his ideas will be addressed in a realistic way in the near future. Let's see. I did want to talk a little bit about the fact that even though it's the middle of the summer and where people are just beginning to be aware that there's a major election coming up in November for all state offices except our 2 U.S. senators, which are federal offices, of course, and a lot of concern about that. And we've had a lot of the candidates on, of the many fine candidates running to be our next congressperson here in Congressional District 1 in New Hampshire. And by the way, next week we're going to have another excellent candidate on, Lincoln Soldati, a longtime county prosecutor over in Stratford County, but has a lot more to his career involvement than that. He'll be with us next week. I hope you'll tune in for that. And then very shortly after that, we hope to have Naomi Andrews on, who's, was Carol Shea Porter's chief of staff and has been endorsed by Carol and is seeking to succeed her, as she has decided not to seek re-election this time. But in the middle of this summer, when we're all thinking about barbecues and the Red Sox, may they win number 9 in a row tonight, when we're thinking about that, we are being told that by the Executive Council in a vote today, a 4-1 vote, that we are, Pat and I and a bunch of our colleagues, almost 400 in number, are being called back to Congress on July 25th because of a certain Supreme Court decision you may have heard about. We hear a lot about the Supreme Court these days. We have a new nominee for a position on the Supreme Court, very concerning to a number of us, but the current Supreme Court just decided on a 5-4 vote, as you may have been reading about, that states states can ask online retailers in states that don't have a sales tax, which is New Hampshire and a couple of other states, those retailers can be asked to pay state sales taxes to other states that do have a sales tax. The case was brought by the state of South Dakota. It was a 5-4 decision with many different opinions on the majority, so there's not really a clear majority position on it, except they upheld, the bottom line, they upheld the South Dakota law, which said that these taxes should be collected. Now, this is kind of an interesting thing, folks, because it's always struck me as a little odd. I'm way off the ranch here of political correctness, believe me. It's always struck me as a little off that if you have a brick-and-mortar presence here in New Hampshire, say like for booksellers, Barnes & Noble does, you will have to pay sales tax for anybody buying, from out of state.
But not in New Hampshire.
But not in New Hampshire. But if you don't have a brick and mortar here, say like Amazon, you can be asked to, New Hampshire businesses, unlike Amazon, not like, because Amazon's too huge for anybody, but, local retailers selling online without a brick and mortar to a state that has a sales tax, like South Dakota, you can be asked to collect that sales tax. Well, this got the powers that be in Concord, particularly Governor Sununu, really excited. He immediately announced that we were going to use every power the state has to deal with this. And so we are now being called back for a special session on July 25th. Now, there's a couple of interesting questions here. Number one, this is a decision of the United States Supreme Court. And like it or not, this court sets the law of the land in cases within its jurisdiction. So they've set the law of the land. So number one is, what can New Hampshire do to deal with this that doesn't contravene that holding of that case? Will we be just setting ourselves up for a very expensive lawsuit, if not at the hands of South Dakota, some other state that has a sales tax? Will we find a way to do this without treading upon what is now the law of the land, that these taxes have to be collected? Number two, and I'm going to ask Pat his thoughts on this, it struck me that when Governor Sununu was announced that this is awful, the sky is falling, we got to do something, we're calling the legislature back, he didn't have many good examples of exactly how this was going to hit New Hampshire businesses. I mean, I guess South Dakota, you told me you thought that the threshold was $100,000 for a particular business. How many New Hampshire businesses are doing online sales to out-of-state customers above that amount? We don't know. Maybe there's some, maybe there's not.
Well, they all want to.
They all want to.
They all want, I mean, you know,
Is
what?
it 100,000 per state resident that bought something off me? I think of Dancing Lion, Rich Tangway.
Yeah.
With the Dancing Lion. You know, he gets sales all over the state, all over the world. And he was just on Channel 9 with the tariffs are going to be killing him too, right? Because he ships to all those countries where they're going to be charging us now. But anyways, if I'm in Massachusetts and I buy off of Rich, is it 100,000 for Massachusetts sales, or is it 100,000 per the buyer? I mean, there's a lot of details that we need to.
We don't know.
Well,
Yeah, we don't know.
I mentioned
right.
before the show, this is policy made by the court. You're not going to get fine lines when the court's making policy. It's now up to the legislature, the House of Representatives,
Wait a minute, but doesn't the Supreme Court take documents from us once they make a decision to? Don't we tell them whether we like their decision or not? Don't we do, what do they call that, when you put in a brief?
Vegas.
Don't we put in a brief after they make a decision to say, hey, we don't like that, what you just did? You know?
Well, the interesting question is, did
why.
we put a brief in before they made the decision? I don't
exactly.
even know that.
Yeah, that's
Well,
true.
if the
That's
state
true.
attorney general's office, if the Department of Justice didn't join the tax-free states in the argument, it's pretty lame of them to come back after it's all done and the
Well,
horse
there
has
are
left the barn
5
to try to
states.
do
There are
something
5
about it.
states that are like New Hampshire, that are in New Hampshire's situation. So, you know, the majority, 45 states,
all for it. This is
NCSL,
revenue.
National Council of State Legislator, which Bob's attended, I attend, you know, they were advocating for this. Because there's 45 states that would like this. It's revenue, right?
If you've got 3/4 of the states vote for policy position, that's their position.
That's right. That's
easily
right.
had that.
Exactly. So it's you know, it's interesting. You know, first of all, what is it going to be the cost to us? Is there any cost to us? I mean,
Right, we don't
there are
know
so
that.
many different laws.
We don't know that.
When it comes to taxation, I was explaining to
Couldn't
you.
the state of New Hampshire simply put in a reciprocal revenue tax that for every penny in tax North Dakota charges on the sale, we charge back the exact same amount to do the sale?
Oh, there's a Commerce Clause lawsuit. We'll spend a lot of money defending that one, I tell
But are
you.
we expected to set up modulars for every state? To
I bet
collect
there's
their
an app for your
taxes?
phone that'll do it right now. I bet,
probably.
you know what I mean? I don't think it's as big a problem as that people are making it out. Other than
Do we have to buy that app?
people have to, cost of doing business, cost of doing business.
I don't know, but this is a real interesting thing. And I must say, you know, there was one vote against this in the Executive Council this morning, and that was Executive Councilor Valinsky. Chris Pappas, who's running, of course, for Congress in CD1, voted for it, but said he thought that special session should be broadened to include improving the Medicaid reimbursements, which are, you know, now disastrously low. And so I thought that maybe that was a good point. But we will see what happens. There's an information session we'll be going to tomorrow and maybe learn more. So in a future edition of the Progress Report, I hope to be able to tell you more about this. But I will say, it seems to me that this is a godsend for political reasons for Governor Sununu. Right. He gets to go out and shout about New Hampshire's virtues, and, you know, we're going to go against the big bad federal ogre in this case.
He'll mess it up.
The U.S. Supreme Court, and
mess it up.
make a lot of noise and publicity for himself. Whether there's really a problem requiring a special session, and whether, as a practical matter, this special session can do anything practical that will pass legal muster, I think is very much up in the air.
So on the positive tax note, Hillsborough County is a negative 36% going down. You know, thanks to the Republicans giving us another $1 million of the close to $40 million surplus we have. We have $15 or $18 million surplus in the general fund. And then we have this close to $20 million surplus.
And this is in
the
county. This is in the
hospital
county.
fund.
This is
In the hospital fund.
why
So-
is the county hoarding money, Pat? Why is the county
You know what?
hoarding money? Do we need county government, Pat?
Well, well, we need it now until we fix what the county is responsible for now. You're absolutely right. Do we need it? I think the state could take you know the deeds, I mean, administration would be gone, the nursing homes.
Well, some years ago, we took over the courts, and that's sky didn't fall, so I guess there may be other
the
things.
reimbursements, though, with the nursing home, We just found out that there's an increase in reimbursement to the tune that we put in our budget $4 million of revenue from Medicaid reimbursement. And we just found out with the increase in reimbursement that it's going to be $12 million. So that's part of that surplus. So instead of 4, we're getting 12. But the state would like us to, HHS would like us to give them 3 or 5 million for whatever. You know, I'm sure they can
Weren't
use
we
it.
just talking about a need in Manchester?
No, that's right.
And in fact, wasn't HHS kind of integral in serving that need?
Absolutely.
And yet they want to take money from us.
Right.
From us.
Right.
And that's the outfit, I mean, they have a stellar 100% record. They've got no problems. There's no investigations going on up there. Everything's running clickety-clack up there, huh?
Well, the reason for that money, from wanting that money, there's only 2 counties in the state out of the 10 counties. Is it 10 counties?
10.
Yeah, out of the 10 counties, there's 2 counties that are profitable. Hillsborough is one of them. So what they want to do is they want to relieve the other, equalize it. And how could you say, you know, first of all, how do you say no to helping people, whether they're in Berlin or wherever they are?
Well, they say no to helping people in Manchester up at the
Yeah,
state
no, I
legislature
agree.
every year.
I agree.
So how can you say no, Pat?
Yeah, no, you're right. So, hey, that'll be a discussion that we'll have, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure.
I thought I would just mention a couple of other things we've talked about. Pat has great insights into what's happening in the city of Manchester. I just thought I'd just mention a couple of things that seem to me like great positive things happening in the city of Manchester. A new art gallery opening on Chestnut Street. Kevin Kittner's Gallery, AAGH. Yes. And
That sounds like a Charlie Brown sound or something.
it's pretty neat. And there's a couple other galleries. There's the Kelly Stelling Gallery. Kevin's gallery, if you haven't visited, it's his own artwork, of course, and he's a good artist. He's skilled. He's going to be open by appointment, but also he's going to be open afternoons for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And the Stelling Gallery is going to be open at that time too. And I guess, Pat, how's the local bookstore doing? The Bookery?
Yeah, the Bookery's doing good. I was there for a promotion with Molly Kelly. I was talking to what's her name? Hitchcock. I can't
Liz.
think of her. Liz.
Liz Hitchcock, I think.
Who's very excited about it. She's going to have entertainment there, she's saying, looking to expand the hours. I think it's fantastic. It's a place to sit and have a coffee
It's a
and
place to
read
sit and
whatever.
have a coffee and have a book,
Yeah.
and I guess they
A
got
good
some
conversation.
good
And
conversation.
all 3 of these things are excellent destinations for our downtown.
Yeah.
Our downtown is chugging along.
That's right.
It has
right.
its issues, but it's chugging along.
Again, this is the opportunity we need to grab a hold of.
Yeah.
Get some retail in here, Get
Yeah.
some,
Yeah, that's the next thing we need. And the other thing I keep mentioning is a downtown movie house too.
yeah.
Bring back
That would be
Parazos.
really nice.
Bring back Parazos and Hills.
Bring back the State Theater or something
Actually, I
like
went to the
that.
mall for the first time in a long time, and it wasn't very.
Yeah,
doing
malls
very
are down.
well.
Malls
Yeah,
are
it
down.
wasn't doing very
Malls
well.
are not doing well anywhere. They're having a hard time holding on to their anchor stores, and this is a real change. And downtown is a place where people really are enjoying being now.
Sure.
A lot of people are choosing to live downtown and appreciate things being close by and available, and these kind of things really help the city, I think. So we're really glad to be able to report on these things too. So I guess we're just about at the time to close here. The hour goes by as it always does.
Before
fast.
we go, Bob, I'd like to make an announcement.
Forgot.
It's
I'm
very
sorry.
important.
Yeah,
There's,
do that. I'm sorry.
This Saturday, the 14th, starting
Right.
at noon in Oak Park, the Manchester City Democrats are going to have a picnic in the park. It's the first time that they've tried anything like that, as far as my memory goes. Maybe you guys can
Yeah, no, I
go
don't-
back further
I
than
don't
me.
remember. Great idea.
I got to say,
It's a
this is
great
a
idea.
nice thing that they're doing it, and we're going to have
Absolutely.
3 of our congressional candidates there. Chris
Yep, you
Pappas,
can-
Naomi Andrews, and who was the third one?
Oh, I'm sorry, Bob, I forgot, and we're out of time for me to even
Was it
look it
Lincoln?
up. But no.
Yeah, it was-
Maybe I can pull it up on my phone in time. But anyway, if you want to find out, we'll keep the suspense. You can go up to Oak Park at noon and find out who the 3rd candidate is. But in the meantime, I may be able to pull it up really quick here.
Yeah, I got a family weekend this weekend.
Okay.
But I think it's really nice that instead
Yeah,
of just
I do
knocking
wanna
on your door.
congratulate
Mark McKenzie, Naomi
Mark
Andrews,
McKenzie.
yeah, now,
Oh,
how can I
okay.
forget Mark McKenzie?
How can we
Great
forget Mark?
candidate.
I'm glad you didn't forget him. So that's it for this week, folks. Next week we'll be back with a very interesting candidate, Lincoln Sadati. I think you'll really enjoy hearing his story, which involves some interesting parts of his record were made right here in Manchester, New Hampshire, and he'll tell us about that. And so thanks for watching us, and we hope to see you next week. Take care. Have a great evening.
And happy birthday to my brother Dan.